What's the biggest size of pipe that I recommend for horizontal rails in fence compared to the size of post that you're using when it comes to using the circle burner? Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for being here. In today's video, we're going to be building a couple of H-braces, but we're not gonna be able to use the circle burner because these braces are 4-inch OD pipe that we're using for our post, and we're using 2 7/8 horizontals. So therefore, it's not going to be worth it to use the circle burner, so I'm gonna have to saddle them. But later in the video, I'm gonna answer that question as far as like the ratio, if you will. In my experience, how big does the post have to be compared to how big the rail can be? We're gonna talk about those ratios later in the video. If you're new to the channel, or maybe you haven't heard about this circle burner is made for this straight torch attachment on these Victor torches. You can find the circle burner attachment in the Welding store. We do carry them. If you're not new around here and you've just been contemplating on whether to buy a straight torch attachment or not, so you can use the circle burner, I did want to let you in on this tip, I guess, if you will. Scarfing tip. I just recently got another straight attachment for another torch. That way I don't have to change out my circle burner whenever I'm wanting to use a scarfing tip on my straight torch. Up until this point, I've always had to take the circle burner off to use my scarfing tip, and that's just kind of been a pain. But all this to say, if you've been contemplating on whether to get a circle burner or not, this straight torch attachment is handy for more than just the circle burner. Yes, you can use a scarfing tip in a regular 90 degree torch like this, but it's not as handy to get into some areas whenever you're cutting out a weld. So that's why I like using a scarfing tip on a straight torch. It just seems to be more comfortable. So I just wanted to let you know about that in case you were hesitating on whether to invest in this straight attachment or not. If you are interested in this straight attachment or this Victor torch in general, text the word torch to 405-643-7176, and I will send you a list of part numbers for these parts of the different sizes of torches, small and large, and the straight torch attachments. This way you can find the exact straight attachment for the circle burner. Got some help today. Got my stock trailer over there. Inside that stock trailer is the fire rig, because as you can see, it's a little dry. So this is the project. A couple of H-braces. There's actually 7 total. But we're gonna start with these this morning. Thanks for nothing. The old welding car. 2 7/8 pipe. Some more help. Oh, they don't want to help. Yeah, you wanted to help until the work started, huh? Yeah, I see how it is. I want to take this moment to thank Colt. He's my brother-in-law. He hooked me up with this stock trailer, the water tote, and the 2-inch water pump. That's what we're using, is a 2-inch water pump. We'll take a closer look at it in next week's video, but I just want to take this moment to thank him and just let you know that that's what I'm using, is a 2-inch water pump sucking out of a water tote, and that's what I'm using to wet down the area before I start cutting and welding. This is legit. I'm gonna be a firefighter. All right, ladies and gents, what, y'all are still here? What the heck, I thought y'all was out on this job. Look at this. Look who's still here. These H braces are getting 2 horizontal rails, hence the word H brace. The spacing that I'm using is 10 inches from the top to my first horizontal, and then from the center of that top horizontal, I go down another 24 inches to the center of my bottom horizontal. But that is just an average spacing. There's no right or wrong way necessarily. I encourage you to be creative. So on these braces, I'm not going to be able to use the circle burner method because this is 4-inch OD and I'm using 2 7/8 horizontals. I'm wore out trying to get that wooden post out over there. So I'm going to have to saddle them instead of using the circle burner. So I've got my measurement, 107 1/4. And now I'm going to go cut the top one first. That's what I normally like to do. And this one should be able to be the same. 107 1/4. All right, so like I said, we're using 4-inch OD for our post, which is a 1/2 inch smaller than what I normally use. I normally use a 4.5-inch OD for post, and then 2 7/8 for horizontals. I personally prefer 2 7/8 because I just feel like it's a little bit stronger than 2 3/8. So any chance I get, I try to use 2 7/8 for horizontals on fence or braces or anything. But anyway, that's kind of a side note. What I want to talk about right now is using the circle burner method versus saddling. So the reason I chose to saddle is because whenever I am using the typical 4.5-inch OD and 2 7/8 rails, that is already kind of a stretch as far as coming down this side. Because whenever I'm using the circle burner, I try to keep my torch straight the whole time as if I was cutting on a piece of flat plate. So like I don't angle it whenever I come down here to the edge. I try to keep it straight because that keeps my hole accurate by doing that. So the smaller that your post gets, that you're cutting your hole in, the further away your tip gets from your pipe. So therefore you're cutting at an angle and it just becomes more cumbersome, if you will, or it becomes more difficult, especially if you're new to using a circle burner. So that's why I recommend not going any less than 4.5-inch when putting in 2 7/8 horizontal rails, and using that ratio throughout any type of fence you may build. Unless you get super slick with using a circle burner, then like I said, this can be, it technically can be done. Obviously at some point, you know, the bigger, like say 2 7/8 is almost 3-inch and this is 4-inch. So say we go to like a 3.5-inch, you're getting out there, 3.5 would probably, you're getting way out here to where you're not, like if you were to put a post here and a post here, you're not gonna have much meat left in the middle. So at some point it becomes kind of obvious that you can't use the circle burner, if you will. Say we're putting a 4.5-inch or 4-inch post and 4-inch rails, you definitely wouldn't want to use, because you're going to be like right there roughly, and you definitely wouldn't want to use the circle burner. So some of this may seem obvious to some of you, but some of you maybe not, depending on your experience. So that's why I wanted to touch on it. If you're not sure what the word ratio means, in this case, ratio means the difference in your size of post and the difference in your size of rail. So in this case, we have 4-inch OD and 2 7/8 OD. Let's just call this 3-inch just for simplicity's sake. So we got 4-inch and 3-inch. The difference is 1 inch. So if we jump up to 4.5-inch, like what I really recommend as far as using 2 7/8, you got 4.5 and just call it 3 inches again. That's 1.5 inches difference. So to sum it up, I recommend no less than 1.5 inches difference in your pipe size and your rail size. Lift with the legs. Ugh. As you can see here, it took me 4 tries to get this pipe fitting good. And even then I had to kind of beat it in, but I would rather it fit just perfect than it be too short, because at least this way it's more enjoyable to weld up. Even though this is a little bit hard for me to share with you that it took me this many tries, I do like sharing this because it keeps it real, if you will. I'm just a human. I take a while to get in the groove. Yeah, I do it for a living. And if I was to do this every day, then I probably wouldn't have to do this, but it's been a couple of weeks since I've built any pipe fence. And so I have to get back in that groove, if you will. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day that runs his family farm, and a lot of you can probably relate. Whenever you run a farm, you do a lot of your own welding. Anyway, he was, kind of talking down on himself, like, well, I definitely got to go through a learning curve. I definitely, I'm not a professional like you. And I'm like, dude, listen, I said, I realize that I do this for a living and that you don't. So like, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, don't feel bad, because if you don't do something every day, even as a professional, if I don't do that every day, that's the neat thing about niching, if you will, is if you're doing the same thing every single day, you're naturally going to get better and faster at it over time. Versus like in my situation, I may build fence for a week, but then I may be working in the shop doing something else, more custom type work, if you will. So I just hope it makes you feel better to see that even a professional like Austin Ross still has a learning curve on every project that I go on. Once I did get that bottom rail in, I stepped back to put the old eyeball on it. For those of you that follow, you know that I'm real big on that eyeball. And for some reason, I think it was this old existing fence that's here that runs a barbed wire. It was really deceiving. It made it look like there was more space on one end than there was on the other, like between the two horizontals. So I kept having to look at it, and I would look at it from this angle, I would look at it from this angle, I'd look at it from all over. I'd go measure in between. I'm all the time just trying to make sure it looks right. But luckily, these cows ain't gonna care. This is definitely a farm project, but I'm always just trying to practice good habits and keep the quality up no matter where my work's going. I strive to do quality work.
Done deal.
Besides hanging this gate, of course, I got this gate to hang and another one that will be coming soon in a future video, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for coming along with me today. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to check out our website, arosswelding.com, for more helpful information. And if you're interested in those straight torch attachments, don't forget to text the word torch to 405-643-7176. Thanks for watching, and remember, learn something every day.